Hey YouTube, this is Sean. So what I have here today is a 1992 Sony Trinitron XBR KV27 XBR 51. I picked it up for free in the Bay Area with a problem that they said it just didn't turn on. Turns out that the power supply, you can see the quality build on this puppy. It's got a standalone power supply like a PVM. It's got a standalone modular board for the picture-in-picture, which is a major option on this particular model. Then you have all, of course, your accessory boards, your main board down here, and your video input board. The problem with this television was this power supply was squealing. Upon powering on, there was no B+. There was no high voltage outputs. As you can see here, these outputs need to be available, the 18 volt, the 11 volt. The protect circuit was enabled, which was causing the power supply to go into shutdown. So looking down inside the television, you can see here, right there is your horizontal output transistor. Let's try to get a focus close up here. I don't know if I'm going to get that with that wire in the way, but anyways, Q504. I saw there was a ceramic disc capacitor here. This is in location C521. You can see that yellow beauty right there that I replaced. It was blown open. So I immediately realized that there must be a short here. So checking it, upon checking, there was definitely a short between the two pins, which is causing a ground short, causing the power supply going to protect. So I figured, you know what, that horizontal output transistor is probably shorted. Without even checking it, I assumed I would order a new one. Well, as it turns out, after removing the chassis, the television, the horizontal output transistor was fine, and that was kind of odd. I don't normally run into the fact where horizontal output transistors are okay. Capacitors are running that transistor or controlling the filtering voltage of that capacitor. Maybe it's just a cleanup or something off the emitter pin. Found some parts, bored with the spare parts. Found a 0.001 microfarad 2 kilovolt capacitor, swapped it back in, and before I turned it on, I realized there were some dry solder connections on this power supply. Very bad. A lot of these components heat up and cool down with age. The flyback had a couple pins on the bottom of the circuit board that were also dry solder, cold solder connections. So I went ahead and hit all those, and I tried this power supply. I said, you know what, I'm used to trying DC switching power supplies, and I left all the connections off of it and plugged it in raw. Well, that's not a good idea on this particular model of power supply, because you're essentially removing the protect pin. And what happened was these two resistors, can you see them right there? You see how they're roasted in the center? Those are 68 ohm resistors. Those things started lighting up like a freaking light bulb. I immediately unplugged it and realized that this power supply has to have a load on it at all times. Really weird. So those are a load resistor. Well, they're about to burn open. So I caught that in time. I'm used to, like I said, a lot of power supplies can be tested without a load. Not this sucker. So if you have one of these and you're trying to figure out what's going on, no picture, maybe you've got the typical Trinitron hum with the degaussing field coil that comes on when it's cold, but you've got nothing else. 9 times out of 10, you have a bad component, or it's cold solder connections. I've got a 32-inch model of this up in the house, and that one in particular had high voltage. You could feel the static on the screen, and the high voltage would come up, but there was no picture. That particular instance was cold solder connections on the bottom of the flyback. Particularly the heater voltages that go to the CRT were not there. So, you know, you can get high voltage on a CRT, and if your heaters aren't, you know, lit up or heating the cathodes inside the CRT, you'll get no picture. So this series is plagued with cold solder connections. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you was, now that it's working, this is right out of the box. I want you to look real closely at the definition of how well the convergence is. The top is not perfect, but if you look down the sides, usually on most newer televisions, they don't put the time and effort into converging these screens. And the convergence system, if you know CRT televisions, consist of magnets and static controls that are on the back of the CRT neck, particularly right here. Now, this is out of the box. This is a 1992 Trinitron XBR. Now, what I want to show you down here is this is a 1999 27-inch Trinitron. This is just I believe the model number is a KV27 V. Here, I'll tell you right now. Yeah, it's a KV27 V42 from December of '99. This is the last bastion of curved Trinitrons before they went with the Wega flat screen. So look at the difference in quality between this XBR convergence and just overall screen. Even with the static, you can see that the convergence is really well dialed in right out of the box. Now, if you look at the newer Trinitron, okay, convergence isn't too bad up here, but can you see where it just goes way out on this side? And it follows all the way down to the bottom. Look at that bottom right corner. That's not that great. All the way across the bottom and all the way to this side. Dial out. Convergence isn't perfect on these. And also, if you notice here, the screen is tilted. That's the yoke, the tilt control on the yoke. It's out of adjustment, obviously. I don't think this TV's ever been opened up. It's, straight from the factory. Try to get a dead on shot. You can see the menu and how that looks like it's tilted maybe over to the right a bit. That's pretty subpar with lower end of the line Trinitrons. You could get in there and adjust it out, but for the novice, I wouldn't suggest it. But it is doable if you know what you're doing and you stay clear of things like high voltage that are on the yoke. And not just high voltage, but there's a certain frequency that is embedded into the horizontal and vertical windings that will really get you if you're not careful. But anyways, that's enough about that. And I don't think I can use this older KV remote to pull this thing out of the menu. Yeah, maybe. Oh well. So yeah, that's it. Look for more videos. Probably hook up a signal to this guy sometime soon so we can see how it actually looks. All right. Thank you.